Hi, I'm Linda Fox. I'm Senior Reporter for PhocusWire. I'm here with Rod Cuthbert. He is best known for being the founder of Viator, which sold to TripAdvisor. And he's an industry veteran, long time in travel. And he also invests in lots of startups and advises them as well. I'm also joined by Bobby Demri. He's founder and MD of Roch Ventures, which is investing in European travel startups as we speak. Thank you. Welcome. So just let's talk about the current climate. Startups are facing a tough time. Money is hard to come by. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? Kick us off, Rod.
Well, I'm hearing from investors, professional investors like Bobby, that their limited partners can get 5 to 10% out in the marketplace. So they can do that without risk. Why would they invest in venture capital? So that flows on. Mm-hmm. It's harder to find funds nowadays.
I do agree with that, but with one caveat. The travel and tourism industry is booming like hell. So we are now in an industry that is performing like no one else. So I'm very bullish on the fact that more and more investors are now interested by the travel sector, which will bring more investment to the travel tech company. And I was taking this example this morning. It's a Phocuswire data. The travel and tourism startups have been underfunded, way underfunded. Over the past 15 years, only 1% of the total investment went to the travel sector. So it's time to invest hard, and that's why Roch Ventures is here as well.
So do you think people are listening to that message though? Because you're almost an outlier there when you say that. Most people are saying, no, too risky, we're not going to invest unless it's proven.
Yeah, but I said earlier this morning that my favorite quote is, prosperity tries the fortunate, adversity the great. If you're not taking risk during adversity, you're not an entrepreneur.
Do you think, though, Bobby, that there has been a bit of a reset, or there will be a reset, where we're not going to see the silly valuations that we saw?
I do think so. I do, and I can give you like very concrete example based on my recent experience with companies. They are now understanding that their valuation were way too high, and it's not anymore considered as a down round to come back to normal valuation. So yeah, I think there is an adjustment in what they sold to their investor the past few rounds and what they are saying now.
Do those kind of adjustments that are going on, do they lead to other things? Do they lead to consolidation, to mergers, to acquisitions? Because companies are finding that it's just really tough, and maybe it's not what they thought it was going to be.
I think more importantly, they lead to a more realistic attitude in the minds of the entrepreneurs who, if you get some crazy valuation for your company that surprises even you get filled with hubris and unrealistic thoughts. You hire too many people. You think you're more important. You think you're a rock star, that you have momentum. And momentum in fundraising is great, but it's not momentum that has any basis in reality in terms of traffic to your website or number of bookings or number of sign-ups or whatever it is. So I think it's really good to shift the focus from an investment round as a success to progress in your business. That's success.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Now, with Roch, I think you've got 150 million euro, the total size of the fund, because it has grown a little, hasn't it?
That's the target of the fund.
Yeah. So just remind us what your sort of target companies are, what you're looking for specifically.
So we are looking for a couple of things. First of all, European companies. Our sweet spot is the Series A stage. We are looking for 4 to 5 verticals. Accommodation, tour and activities, mobility, transportation, corporate travel. Those are our focused verticals. And obviously, and this is really something I'm struggling to find, sustainability. Can someone bring me good impact startups? I'm looking for that. I see a lot of greenwashing, but I'm not able to find a serious, real travel sustainable tech company.
I mean, the problem with that might be, there's some of them, the SaaS companies out there, they're quite interesting, they're doing interesting things, but you're not talking, 10 million, you're talking many, many more millions. And maybe that's one of the issues that for those sustainability startups.
Could be if you think of like new energy for air transportation.
Exactly.
But I can think of companies that could help customers or travelers to say like the impact of their carbon footprint on a specific trip. So, I mean, obviously you have the very big technology that are trying to reinvent the way we consume air transportation, but you might find also like simple technology more for travelers to understand what's the impact.
Okay, interesting. So what would you be interested in investing in, Rod? What do you keep an eye on? Obviously, tours and activities is your own sweet spot, probably your sort of own passion, but are there other areas that you think, actually, that's interesting?
I might think that, but then I think, I don't know anything about that, so I would stay away from it. I'm investing on an entirely different scale to Bobby, take a few zeros off. I made an investment in a UK-based company called Byway Travel, which is doing flight-free travel out of the UK, so putting people on the Eurostar and ferries, etc., and staying at eco-conscious.
Yeah, they do a whole personal itinerary thing, don't they?
And it's just going so well. And I see in their future a lot of partnerships with bigger players who want to understand, the DNA of those travelers and how to talk to them, etc. And Byway, I think, is building a lot of expertise in that area. So it's to your point. You'd like to see investments in that area. I think that's one that's doing well.
Yeah.
But you're right, they're not thick on the ground, are they?
Okay, so I wonder if that's also because sustainability startups at the same time are also trying to cover many verticals. Is that a possibility?
It could be. It could
and
be.
Not specific necessarily to travel.
It could be, but if you take like facts, the travel and tourism industry count for 8% of the total carbon emission. So it's probably one of the most important industries in terms of sustainability initiative. Mm-hmm. So if they are looking for an industry that really needs support on that side, they should look really closely to the travel industry.
But I mean, are we taking it seriously? You live in Australia. I've spent my time flying around. We probably all spend our time quite a lot of time flying around. It feels as if consumers aren't really taking it seriously. So what's it going to take?
Well, some of these problems are sort of intractable, or at least you're asking the wrong people. When the airlines start using, a different type of fuel, when we have hydrogen-powered, intercontinental flights, etc., then we're going to be making a real impact. There's certainly plenty of hotels and resorts that are doing everything they can to be more environmentally conscious. I'm not sure it's something that startups can do a lot about. We can do things around the edges, but I think it's the bigger players.
Yeah,
you're right.
Take a stand.
You're right on the fact that the big players should involve the rest of the ecosystem. I always take this example because the CEO is part of my board and I admire him a lot, but the Six Senses, that's a great example in terms of sustainability in hospitality. Great example. There's another way to answer to your question about the fact that we are travelers, we took the plane to come.
Sure.
It's definitely, that's one of my convictions, the revival of the rail. We are going to see a lot of innovation in rail.
Yeah.
And train, to be honest, as of today, it's a terrible experience. But when people will come with new experience and new way to consume train, I really think this will have an impact on the way we are consuming travel and our impact on the planet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested to see how the Air France announcement and government pushing them for flights less than 2 hours to get on the train. I'm really interested to see because I think they're already seeing big numbers.
Sure. This is the case now in France,
Yeah, exactly.
Since maybe 1 or 2 months ago.
Exactly.
So now in France, you're not allowed to take a plane if there is a train at
2 hour journey,
2 hour,
2.5 hour journey, something like that. So that's going to be interesting.
So this has an impact, but the reality behind this, that's why I always say it's a bit of greenwashing. The reality is that it was not profitable for company to keep those lines open. Yeah. So anyway, it's a good news, but the build companies still have a lot of work to do.
Okay.
Good luck rolling that strategy out in the US. You're not allowed to take a flight.
Yeah, and also the train infrastructure isn't there. I mean...
Well, that would be a problem too.
Yeah, kind of those large-scale projects. Okay, so now you are involved in Viator in Japan. Just talk a little bit about the dynamics of being involved in a Japanese company, a startup, still in tours and activities, but it's perhaps a country and a culture that we don't really hear too much about when it comes to travel technology and startups.
Right, and I guess that's why they wanted to get somebody from the West, outside of Japan, involved in their board, and hopefully they're making some sort of structural changes. I think culturally, Japanese companies tend to look for answers to problems, to challenges internally, and they do a lot of research. And I think my guidance to them would be, before you do any of that, just send somebody out into the world, go to a few conferences, ask a bunch of questions, and see what companies outside of Japan are doing, because maybe you can implement a solution really quickly. So that's my major contribution over there so far in a land where I don't speak a word of the language.
Yeah, and does that mean they send you out to those conferences and collect information, or do they need to send one of their own?
I do, and I write to them, and ChatGPT translates it, and we're all happy.
It works?
It does.
Okay. Now, I do want to talk about trip planning, because I've been writing about travel technology and startups for probably 15, 20 years, and we've seen many, many itinerary planning, travel planning startups come and go. Rod, you've probably seen more come and go than I have, and yet people still keep doing them. Why?
Well, it is a great pity that people keep still doing them. Maybe one will break through at some point. Fundamentally, what young entrepreneurs fail to recognize is that trip planning, even though it takes a lot of time and seems like a tedious bore at the time, it's actually an enjoyable part of the overall travel experience. That when you're planning a trip, when you're in that anticipation phase, it tends to be the case that the sky is always blue, you get a fantastic room at the resort, the flight is on time, there's a car there to pick you up, everything goes really well. Even your traveling companions are nice. That anticipation of a perfect holiday, it really has a significant influence on how you recall the holiday and your propensity to go back to whoever you booked it from and do it again. This isn't just my thinking on it, there's plenty of academic research on this. So trying to shorten the trip planning process so that you use AI or whatever and you turn, a visit to 39 different websites into just, a couple of questions and we've got the right answer, it's sort of A, nonsensical, and B, it cuts away at one of the major factors that a company can employ to get repeat business. So it's disappointing to me to see people try it.
Bobby, do you agree?
It resonates a lot with me, because basically what you're saying, this is part of the experience. And I do agree with that. I think this is hospitality. It's part of the experience.
Now, 2-3 years ago, startups were advised not to do B2C. B2B seemed to be the play. Has that changed now, Rod?
I think it has. There's, the advent of things like TikTok and other social tools. Hopper has proven that you can build an app and just bypass the web entirely. We're starting to see different examples of people finding new ways to be successful in B2C. A lot of startups are confronted at a certain point with a choice of do we go B2B or B2C? I would say always have a B2C play, even if it's only 10% of your revenues, because that's a sandpit that you can play in, you can experiment, you can do A/B testing, you can do data science, you can figure out what customers will respond to. Whereas if all of your communications with your clients are through an API and you don't control the UX, you'll never be able to do that experimentation and you'll never get those step changes in conversion rate.
You have invested in B2C with Whisky.
Yeah.
And I mean, how do you think your investments are going to fall out? B2C, B2B, both?
So it's a great example because it's against our thesis. Usually
Right.
we are more focusing on B2B. The reason why we invest in Whisky very quickly, fantastic team, spectacular technology. Okay, so I disagree a bit with you, because take the example of Booking or Expedia. The marketing budget of Booking per year is roughly like what, 4 billion? Something? 6 billion?
6.
Imagine 6 billion. So I'm always afraid with the B2C business because of the cash consuming on marketing. B2B is something you can control better. You can create strong relation with some of your most important clients, And the tasting, you do the tasting with your clients. I disagree a bit, even if, I mean, I have a counter example, which is whiskey.
You do?
But the only
But
way
that's a
for
niche
me,
business, so.
there are two things. First of all, it's a niche business. And second, the technology is unique. So I bet on the product, saying that this product is super defensible and this changes everything. In B2C, when you need to invest a ton of money to get your customer, if you're a fund like me, you will be every year afraid of a new round, equity, cash issue, and so on. So it's not my favorite spot. The only way for me to counter that is to have a technology which bet everything.
Which blows it out of the water. Okay. Just to finish up, generative AI, too much too soon, scarily exciting, something else? Rod?
It's pretty scary. I did a search on who was the founder of Viator the other day. Quite a narcissistic thing to do, I suppose, but I was just testing it out and it got half of it right. It said it was me, but then it had somebody else who was my co-founder.
And it wasn't your co-founder?
Definitely not my co-founder.
Okay.
And I Googled, you know, Viator plus this dude's name and there was nothing there. So it really did just hallucinate it.
Wow.
So yeah, look,
Great
generative
example.
AI, great, but also not great.
Okay, Bobby, same question.
I would say it's a bit like the NFT, you know, when people were talking a lot about one new trend and they all run into this trend.
Yeah.
I would wait a bit. I think there are great things in generative AI. Great. When I was at BCG, we did a lot of cases on AI. So I have very strong interest in that. But I'm not like a lot of investors who are just already raising a ton of funds to put into that. Wait and see. Mm-hmm. I'm super open, but wait and see.
All right. Bobby, Rod, thanks for joining me.